Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you were there? Or maybe you've misplaced your keys again and found yourself standing in the kitchen, wondering how they ended up in the fridge? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. It happens to the best of us. But here's the thing, when it starts happening more often after a certain age, it can feel a little more unsettling. You might brush it off as just getting older, but deep down, maybe there's a small part of you that wonders, is this normal? Is something happening to my brain? Here's the truth. Yes, your brain does change with age. After the age of 65, many people start to notice subtle shifts. Names are harder to recall, focus gets fuzzy, and multitasking doesn't come as easily. That's because your brain is literally shrinking, slowly, gradually, but enough to make a real impact on memory, thinking speed, and clarity. Now, before that makes you panic, let me reassure you, this is not the end of the story. There's a lot you can do about it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In this video, we're diving into why the brain shrinks after 65, what it really means for your daily life, and most importantly, what you can do starting today to keep your brain sharp, your memory strong, and your mind young. And no, this isn't about doing Sudoku puzzles all day or memorizing long grocery lists. These are 6 surprisingly simple, science-backed habits that can help slow down brain shrinkage and even support brain growth at any age. So let's start right where it matters most, something you probably don't even think about as connected to your brain at all, your movement. Did you know that your brain loves it when you move your body? That's right, when you go for a walk, stretch, or even dance around your living room, your brain gets a boost of oxygen-rich blood. This helps nourish the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory. It's also one of the first areas to shrink as we age. But here's where it gets interesting. You don't need to run marathons. In fact, gentle, consistent movement like walking, yoga, or Tai Chi can do wonders. Especially when it's paired with something enjoyable, like walking with a friend, listening to your favorite music, or even just taking in the sunshine. When movement feels good, you're more likely to stick with it, and that's the secret. You see, regular physical activity doesn't just help your heart and joints, it actually helps your brain form new neural connections. It's like watering a plant. The more you move, the more you feed your brain what it needs to stay alive and growing. And if you're someone who hasn't been moving much lately, don't worry. It's never too late. Start with 5 minutes a day. Just 5. Walk to your mailbox. Do gentle circles with your arms. March in place during a commercial break. Little movements add up. Now, while your body needs movement, your brain also needs something else just as critical, fuel. And by fuel, I mean what's on your plate. We often think of food as just energy or something to fill us up, but for your brain, food is information. What you eat tells your brain how to function. And some foods whisper encouragement, while others, well, they yell confusion. One of the simplest ways to support your brain health is by eating more healthy fats. Yes, fats. The right kinds. Your brain is made up of nearly 60% fat, and it needs certain types of fat to build cells and stay flexible. Think about adding more omega-3 rich foods to your meals. Salmon, walnuts, flax seeds, they're not just trendy health foods, they're brain food. These kinds of fats help protect your brain from inflammation, which is one of the big reasons our brain cells begin to die off faster as we get older. Even just a tablespoon of ground flax seeds stirred into your oatmeal or a handful of walnuts as a midday snack can make a difference over time. It's not about overhauling your entire diet overnight. It's about adding a little bit of goodness, one bite at a time. On the flip side, cutting back just a bit on the processed, packaged foods, the ones high in added sugars and industrial oils, can give your brain a break. Because here's the honest truth. The more sugar your brain has to process, the more foggy and inflamed it becomes. And that fog, well, that's what makes it harder to find your words, remember where you put things, or stay focused during a conversation. So next time you're choosing between a sugary treat and a bowl of fresh berries or dark chocolate with almonds, go for the real stuff. Not because you're on a diet, but because your brain deserves better. Now, you might be thinking, okay, move more, eat better. I've heard that before. And yes, you probably have. But the question is, have you been doing it with your brain in mind? It's not about weight loss or fitting into clothes. It's about staying sharp, staying present, staying independent. Because the truth is, when your brain starts to shrink, it doesn't just affect your memory. It affects your balance, your confidence, your mood. It makes it harder to make decisions or learn new things. But with just a few small changes, you can slow that process down, sometimes even reverse parts of it. And all it takes is a little consistency, a little kindness toward yourself, and the belief that your best brain years aren't behind you, they're still ahead. Now, as we're giving your brain the fuel it loves, there's something else it craves just as much: newness. You see, your brain is a curious creature. It thrives when it's challenged, when it's engaged, when it's doing something just a little unfamiliar. That's because novelty sparks growth. Literally, when you try something new, whether it's a hobby, a puzzle, or even just taking a different route on your daily walk, your brain begins forming new connections. It's like waking up parts of the brain that have been dozing off. And no, we're not talking about anything complicated. You don't have to pick up a violin or learn French, unless you want to, of course. But even simple things like brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand, learning a new card game, or reading a different genre of book than you normally would, all of these send a signal to your brain that says, hey, we're still learning here. And when your brain gets that message, it holds on to its strength just a little bit longer. Think about it like this: your brain is like a set of muscles. If you don't use them, they start to weaken. But if you keep challenging them, they adapt and grow stronger. And just like lifting weights makes your arms more toned, trying new things keeps your mind more alert, more focused, more alive. Another beautiful benefit? Doing something new often leads to laughter, connection, or a story to tell. That brings us to another key part of brain health that's often overlooked: social connection. Now, this might surprise you, but loneliness is one of the quietest threats to the aging brain. Studies show that isolation and lack of meaningful interaction can actually speed up brain shrinkage. But here's the good news: the opposite is also true. Staying socially active can help protect your brain from cognitive decline. And no, social activity doesn't mean going to crowded events or being the life of the party. It can be as simple as calling an old friend, chatting with your neighbor, joining a book club, or even exchanging recipes with someone you trust. What matters is the connection, the feeling that you are seen, heard, and valued. When we interact with others, we engage multiple parts of the brain at once: memory, language, emotional regulation, attention. A simple conversation can actually be more stimulating for your brain than you realize. It keeps those mental circuits firing, and it brings joy. And that joy, that matters more than most people think. Because joy isn't just an emotion, it's nourishment. It helps regulate your stress hormones. And chronic stress, that quiet, invisible weight that sometimes builds over the years, can be incredibly damaging to the brain, especially the parts responsible for memory and learning. That's why the next simple trick to protect your brain is to manage stress gently but consistently. You don't have to be a Zen master or sit cross-legged on a mountaintop. But finding small, calming rituals that work for you, that's powerful. For some people, it's sipping tea while watching the birds. For others, it might be gardening, praying, listening to music, or simply taking 5 deep breaths before bed. When you create a moment of peace in your day, no matter how small, you give your brain space to recover. You lower inflammation. You help your nervous system relax. And your brain gets the message: we're safe now. We don't have to be on high alert. Even 5 minutes a day of intentional calm can make a difference over time. Don't underestimate it. Now let's talk about something most people don't associate with brain health, but they absolutely should: sleep. Not just any sleep. Deep, restorative sleep. The kind where you wake up and actually feel refreshed, not groggy and stiff. Sleep is the time when your brain does its cleanup work. It flushes out toxins, repairs damaged cells, and processes memories. It's like your brain's overnight janitor crew. But if you're tossing and turning or waking up 5 times a night, that crew doesn't get their job done. And over time, those missed cleanups can lead to buildup in the brain. This buildup has even been linked to cognitive decline and diseases like Alzheimer's. But again, we're not looking for perfection here, just progress. Try going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. Limit screen time before bed. Make your bedroom a little cooler and quieter. And if your mind races at night, try journaling your thoughts before lying down or listening to calming audio. Sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's your brain's most important repair tool, and when you treat it with care, your brain will thank you with better memory, mood, and clarity. So, let's take a breath together. We've talked about movement, food, new challenges, social connection, stress management, sleep. These may sound like ordinary parts of life, but when you approach them with intention, when you know why they matter to your brain, they become powerful tools. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about choosing just 1 or 2 things to begin with, starting somewhere, because every small change sends a powerful message to your brain. You're still needed. You're still learning. You're still growing. And that message, that's what keeps your brain young, no matter what the calendar says. You know, what's truly remarkable is how something as small as a change in routine or an extra hour of sleep can ripple through the body in ways we don't always see. But one area that absolutely feels those changes? Your brain. And there's still one more important piece we haven't talked about yet, something that might be hiding in plain sight. Hydration. Yes, water. Something so simple, so basic, it's often overlooked. But the truth is, even mild dehydration can cause your brain to feel foggy, tired, and unfocused. It shrinks brain tissue temporarily and makes tasks like remembering names, solving problems, or even concentrating on a conversation much harder than they need to be. As we age, we naturally lose some of the sensitivity that tells us we're thirsty. So you might not feel that same strong urge to reach for a glass of water like you once did, but your brain still needs it desperately. Think of your brain like a sponge. When it's hydrated, it's flexible, springy, full of life. But when it's dry, it gets stiff and sluggish. Just a few glasses of water throughout the day, especially in the morning and early afternoon, can help sharpen your thinking, lift your mood, and reduce that sense of mental fatigue that sneaks in around midday. You don't need to drown yourself in gallons of water. Just be gentle. Sip regularly. Herbal teas, broths, or adding a splash of lemon or cucumber to your water can make it more enjoyable. And don't wait until you're thirsty. By then, your brain has already started to slow down. Now, after everything we've talked about, movement, nutrition, mental challenge, connection, sleep, stress, and hydration, you might be wondering, where do I even begin? That's a fair question. But let me offer you this. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to be consistent every single day. What matters is the intention behind your choices. What matters is that you recognize your brain still has growing, adapting, and thriving left to do. You're not too old for change. You're not too late to make a difference. Your brain is still listening. It's still ready to respond. And here's something else to remember. Your brain doesn't just shrink because of age. It shrinks when it's ignored, when it's underfed, when it's lonely, stressed, or understimulated. But when you care for it like you would a beloved garden, with sunlight, movement, nourishment, rest, and love, it can flourish again. That clarity you want? That feeling of being yourself again? It's possible. And not just in a fleeting way, but in a way that builds gently and steadily, day by day. So let me ask you something from the heart. What's one thing, just one, you could do differently tomorrow morning to send your brain a message of care? Maybe it's taking a short walk before breakfast. Maybe it's calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe it's drinking a tall glass of water as soon as you wake up. Or maybe it's putting your phone away before bed and curling up with a real book instead. Whatever it is, let it be small, let it be kind, and let it be yours. Because when you take that small step, you're not just preserving memory or slowing decline. You're telling your brain that you believe in its strength, that you're still in the game, that there's still more life to live, more love to give, more stories to tell. And isn't that what it's all about? Not just surviving, but living well, feeling present in your own life, staying independent, alert, and connected to the world around you. These 6 simple habits aren't just strategies. They're invitations. Invitations to return to yourself, to nourish the part of you that thinks, that feels, that remembers. Because that part of you is still very much alive, and it deserves your attention. So whether you're 65, 75, or even 95, please hear this. Your brain is still growing, still changing, and still responding to how you live. Every time you move, laugh, rest, learn, or connect, you're giving it a reason to keep going. And that's something truly powerful. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing from today's conversation that stood out to you? What habit have you already tried? Or what new one are you excited to begin? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. Not just for me, but for others in this community who are walking this journey alongside you. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps more people just like you find this information. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you never miss our next conversation. Remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about believing that you're worth the effort, that your brain is still capable of brilliance, creativity, and joy. Here's to staying sharp, to staying hopeful, and to living your best life at every age. You've got this.